Hello everyone, Jackson here, and welcome back to the channel. August is one of the most misunderstood months in the entire gardening year. A lot of people look at their garden in August and assume the season is winding down. The tomatoes are tired, the cucumbers are getting beat up, the squash is looking rough, the weeds are aggressive, the heat is relentless, and the whole garden can feel like it is coasting toward burnout. So what do most gardeners do? They stop planting, they back off, they assume they missed the window. And that right there is the mistake, because August is not the end of the season. In many ways, August is the month that decides whether your garden fizzles out in disappointment or shifts into a whole new season of production. What you plant right now determines whether you are still harvesting heavily later on, while everyone else is saying their garden is done. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through 5 crops you will deeply regret not planting in August. These are not random picks. These are crops that make strategic sense. They are productive, practical, and they can completely change what your late summer and fall garden looks like. Some grow fast, some thrive as the weather begins to shift, some are perfect for replacing tired summer crops, and all 5 give you a chance to squeeze far more value, food, and satisfaction out of your garden than most people realize is possible this late in the game. Now, as always, I want to make this useful no matter where you live. Maybe you have a short season and early frost. Maybe you live in a hot southern climate where August still feels like the middle of summer. Maybe you are somewhere in between. I'm going to explain how these crops fit into both warmer, longer season climates and cooler, shorter season climates, so you can actually use this information instead of just hearing a list that only works in one location. And make sure you stay with me all the way until the end, because the final crop on this list is the one that surprises people the most. It is one of the best crops for reclaiming momentum in the garden, but gardeners skip it every single year because they assume the timing is wrong. It is not wrong. In fact, for a lot of people, August is exactly when they should be planting it. So let's get right into it. Crop number 1, bush beans. If you are not planting bush beans in August, you are missing one of the easiest late-season wins in gardening. Bush beans are one of those crops that solve multiple problems at once. First, they grow fast, and that matters in August because time becomes more valuable. You do not want to waste precious weeks on something that takes forever to mature unless you know your season can support it. Bush beans give you speed. Many varieties are ready in well under 2 months, and some move even faster under good conditions. Second, they are direct sow friendly. That means you do not need to baby them indoors, deal with transplant shock, or create a whole complicated setup. You can clear a space, improve the soil if needed, sow the seeds, keep them moist through germination, and let them get moving. Third, bush beans are a fantastic succession crop. They are perfect for taking over space that is opening up right now. Maybe your garlic is already harvested. Maybe your onions are out. Maybe one wave of cucumbers is finished. Maybe you just pulled a disease-ridden tomato or an exhausted squash plant. Bush beans are excellent for filling those openings with something productive fast. Now, if you are in a cooler climate with an earlier first frost, this is exactly why you need to think in terms of quick returns. August planting has to be intentional. Bush beans fit that bill beautifully. If you choose a fast maturing variety and get them in promptly, you can still pull a meaningful harvest before cold weather shuts things down. If you are in a warmer climate with a long fall, then bush beans are even more exciting because you have more runway. In fact, many gardeners in long season climates find that a later sowing of bush beans performs better than an early summer sowing, because the plants can mature into slightly softer, more forgiving weather as the season progresses. That is a huge point people overlook. Just because a crop can be planted in spring does not mean spring is the best version of it. Some crops are actually more enjoyable and more dependable when planted later. With beans, one of the biggest August challenges is heat during germination and establishment. If your soil is extremely hot and your afternoons are brutal, do not just toss the seed in and hope for the best. Help them. Water the bed before sowing. Mulch lightly after seedlings establish. And if the heat is intense where you live, give them temporary shade during the hottest part of the day for their first stretch of growth. That little bit of help can make a huge difference. Also, keep harvesting once they begin producing. Bush beans are generous, but they reward consistency. The more you pick, the more they tend to keep moving. Let too many pods sit and mature fully on the plant, and the plant starts getting the message that its reproductive work is done. And that is really the beauty of bush beans in August. They are simple, they are fast, they are productive. They are forgiving, and they are exactly the kind of crop that helps you avoid that empty late summer gap so many gardeners fall into. If your garden has open space right now, bush beans deserve serious attention. Crop number 2, cucumbers. Now this one is a big deal because most people handle cucumbers completely wrong in the back half of the season. What happens is they plant cucumbers earlier in the year, the vines explode, the harvest gets exciting, and then somewhere along the line things start going sideways. The leaves get battered, disease starts creeping in, insects show up, production drops, the fruit quality goes downhill, the vines start looking tired. But instead of replacing them, people just keep trying to nurse those old plants along, like somehow they are going to turn back into fresh vines again. Usually they do not. Cucumbers are one of the best examples of why succession planting matters. These are not forever plants. They are quick, aggressive, productive vines that do their thing and then start declining. So if you want cucumbers later into the season, August is a smart time to plant a new wave that can be a game changer. A fresh cucumber planting has something old cucumber vines do not have anymore: youth, energy, clean growth, and time to establish before the conditions change again. If your first planting is fading, this is how you keep the harvest going instead of watching it disappear. Now, how you do this depends on your climate. If you live where frost comes early, pick a fast variety and do not waste time. Get it in, use a trellis if possible to maximize airflow and make harvesting easier. Keep the watering consistent and protect the young plants from stress while they are establishing. If you live in a hot or long season region, August cucumbers can be incredible, but they often need a more thoughtful start. The challenge is not whether they can grow; they absolutely can. The challenge is whether the heat is so intense that young seedlings get hammered before they can really take off. In that case, some light shade early on can be very helpful. Not permanent darkness, not overprotection, just enough to take the edge off while they settle in. Another reason August cucumbers are so valuable is psychological. And yes, that matters in gardening too. By this point in the season, people get worn down. They are tired of fighting problems, tired of watching plants age out, tired of feeling like the garden peaked already. A fresh cucumber planting changes the mood, it brings momentum back, it gives you something new to train, something new to look forward to, and a realistic path to another strong harvest window. That matters more than people think. Because the best gardeners are not just the ones who know what to plant. They are the ones who know how to keep the season emotionally alive. And cucumbers do that beautifully. One more thing. If you are planting a fresh round in August, stay on top of harvesting later. Do not let fruit get oversized and sit too long. Young cucumber plants can produce with real intensity when they are happy, and regular harvest keeps that production rhythm going. So if your earlier vines are looking rough, don't sit there hoping they recover into greatness. Replace them. August is one of the smartest times to reset cucumbers and keep the season rolling. Crop number 3, basil. If there is one herb almost everybody underestimates in late summer, it is basil. And that is strange, because basil is one of the most rewarding things you can plant in August. A lot of gardeners think of basil as something you plant once, somewhere near the beginning of the warm season, and then you just keep harvesting it until it gives out. But if you do that, you are missing out on one of the easiest upgrades you can make to your herb garden. Because by August, an earlier basil planting is often getting tired, woody, stretched, or flower happy. You can keep pinching it back, and yes, you should. But there is something very powerful about starting a fresh wave of basil when the season still has plenty of warmth left. Fresh basil plants are more tender, more vigorous, more fragrant, and frankly more enjoyable to harvest. They have that youthful energy that older plants lose. The leaves are softer, the regrowth is faster, the whole planting feels cleaner and more productive. And basil is such a useful crop. It is not one of those novelty plants you grow just because it is cute. Basil actually earns its space. You use it fresh, you cook with it, you preserve it, you blend it, you dry it, you freeze it, you share it, and if you grow enough of it, it becomes one of those crops that makes your garden feel abundant in a way that small occasional harvests never can. Now, if you are in a short season area, August basil is your chance to squeeze one more excellent wave of flavor out of the garden before cooler nights finally slow it down. You do not need forever for basil to be worth it. If it grows strongly for a stretch and gives you repeated harvests, it has paid you back. If you are in a warmer climate, then this is even better. August basil can carry beautifully into fall, especially when the worst of the summer stress begins to soften just enough to help the plants rebound and thrive. Basil also gives you flexibility in how you start it. In calmer conditions, you can direct sow it, but many gardeners prefer to start it in trays or small containers first and then transplant it. That can be especially helpful if you have pounding rain, erratic moisture, or a lot of pest pressure on tiny seedlings. Another thing I love about basil in August is that it helps you think like a continuous gardener instead of a one-and-done gardener. It teaches you to refresh crops instead of just maintaining old ones. That is a major mindset shift, and once you understand it, your garden gets better. You stop asking, how do I make this same planting last forever? And you start asking, when should I start the next wave so I always have something at peak performance? That is a much smarter question. Now, of course, if you are growing basil, do not let it flower unchecked unless you want seed or pollinator support from specific plants. Once basil commits heavily to flowering, leaf quality and tenderness are not what they were before. Pinch it, harvest it, shape it, and keep it actively growing. And if you have room, do not be afraid to grow more than one kind. A classic sweet basil, maybe a purple basil, maybe even a more specialized basil type, if you enjoy experimenting. Diversity in herbs makes the garden more interesting, and it also keeps your harvests more useful in the kitchen. So yes, basil absolutely belongs on this list. People think August is too late to be exciting in the herb garden. It is not. August basil can be one of the best plantings of the year. And if this video is helping you think differently about late-season gardening, take a second to subscribe to the channel, because that is exactly what we do here. We do not quit when the calendar shifts. We learn how to keep the garden productive longer, smarter, and with a whole lot more purpose. Now let's keep going. Crop number 4, carrots. This is the crop that many gardeners are nervous about, and I understand why. Carrots have a reputation for being a little fussy, especially at the beginning. Tiny seed, uneven germination, moisture sensitivity, crusting soil, slow establishment. It is easy to have a bad first experience and assume carrots are just not worth the trouble. But here is the truth. If you skip carrots in August, you may miss out on one of the best tasting harvests in the entire gardening season. Because fall carrots are special. They are sweeter, crisper, and often far better than carrots grown into the rising heat of late spring or early summer. As nights cool down and growth becomes more balanced, carrots develop wonderful flavor and texture. That late season quality is hard to beat. So why August? Because carrots need time. You want to get them started while there is still enough warmth for germination and early growth, but you want much of their bulking and finishing to happen as conditions improve. August is the bridge. It gives you that overlap between summer energy and coming fall quality. Now, I will say this clearly. Success with August carrots depends heavily on moisture management during germination. That is the entire battle. Carrot seed must not dry out during the germination window. If the surface dries repeatedly, your stand will be weak, patchy, and frustrating. So when you plant carrots in August, your number one job is not feeding them, not thinning them on day one, not obsessing over size. Your first job is keeping that seed zone evenly moist until those seedlings are up. That may mean watering lightly and consistently. That may mean using a very light cover method to reduce surface drying. That may mean sowing into well-prepared soil with a fine texture and good contact. But whatever method you use, the goal is the same. Do not let the top layer swing wildly between damp and bone dry. Once carrots are up and growing, they become much more cooperative. In cooler climates, August carrots can be one of the most strategic root crops you grow. In warmer climates, they can be even more luxurious because you often have a longer cool-down period ahead to let them mature beautifully. And the reason people regret not planting them is simple. By the time the weather becomes perfect for carrots later, it is too late to go back and start them from scratch. You have to think ahead. You have to use August wisely, so fall can reward you. That is one of the central truths of gardening, isn't it? The garden always rewards foresight more than reaction. Carrots are a perfect example. If you want sweet roots later, you do the work now. Also, carrots make fantastic use of space. They are not sprawling vines. They are not giant hungry plants taking over half the bed. They fit beautifully into intensive gardening plans, raised beds, and tighter spaces. If you have a patch opening up and you want something productive that stores beautifully and improves with the season, carrots are an excellent answer. And if you have struggled with them before, do not let that stop you. Improve the seed bed, stay disciplined on moisture, sow more carefully, give them another shot. A lot of crops are forgiving after neglect. Carrots are rewarding after precision. Learn that difference, and they become far more dependable. Crop number 5, romaine lettuce. This is the crop people tend to get completely wrong because they think about it with the wrong season in mind. When most people hear lettuce, they think spring, cool mornings, fresh salads, mild weather. And yes, spring lettuce is wonderful, but fall romaine can be even better. In fact, for many gardeners it is better. The heads are often sweeter, crisper, cleaner, and far less stressed than spring lettuce that matures while the weather is warming and trying to push plants toward bolting. Fall lettuce matures in the opposite direction. Instead of racing toward heat, it eases into cooler conditions. That changes everything. So why do people miss it? Because they wait until it feels like lettuce weather, and by then, they are late. That is the trap. If you wait until the air feels cool and pleasant, and then decide to start lettuce, you may have missed the real window. Lettuce meant for fall harvest often needs to be started while it is still uncomfortably warm outside. That feels counterintuitive, but that is exactly why people regret not planting it. August is the setup month. Now, depending on where you live, you may not treat it the same way. In cooler regions, early August may already be the time to get serious about starting or sowing, especially if your frost arrives on the earlier side. In warmer regions, you may lean later in the month or protect transplants as they establish. But either way, August is when the planning becomes real. And let me say something important here. Romaine lettuce is not difficult, but timing is everything. This is not about randomly tossing seed and hoping it works. It is about understanding that fall crops begin before fall arrives. That principle alone can improve your garden enormously. Now, if it is still brutally hot where you are, you may have more success starting romaine in trays first, instead of direct sowing into scorching soil. That gives you a little more control during early life. Then once the plants are strong enough, you can move them into the garden with a bit of protection if necessary. If you live somewhere milder, direct sowing may work beautifully. What matters most is not copying someone else's exact date. What matters is understanding the pattern. You are trying to line up the plant's maturity with the sweet spot of the season. That is what great gardeners do. They do not just plant by habit, they plant by trajectory. And romaine absolutely rewards that. Another reason I love putting romaine on this list is that it brings balance back to the garden. By August, a lot of the garden is dominated by heavy summer crops, fading vines, and long warm season momentum. Romaine changes the energy. It signals a transition. It brings freshness, crispness, and that first real taste of the next season. There is something deeply satisfying about that. It reminds you that gardening is not just about surviving the current weather. It is about planting into what comes next. And if you miss August for romaine, you often feel it later. You watch other gardeners harvest beautiful fall salads while you realize your timing slipped and now you are behind. That regret is real. So if you have any interest at all in a strong fall salad garden, do not ignore romaine in August. Start it, plan it, protect it if needed, and give yourself the chance to enjoy one of the finest cool season harvests there is. Let's pull this all together. Those are the 5 crops: bush beans, cucumbers, basil, carrots, and romaine lettuce. And what I want you to notice is that this is not just a random list of things that technically can be planted in August. That is not useful. Anybody can throw together a list. What matters is why these 5 are so powerful right now. Bush beans give you speed, simplicity, and quick productivity. Cucumbers give you a fresh reset instead of forcing you to rely on old exhausted vines. Basil gives you a second wind in the herb garden and a high-value harvest from a compact crop. Carrots give you one of the most delicious and rewarding cool-down harvests of the season, but only if you think ahead. Romaine lettuce gives you a direct path into a better fall garden, while most people are still mentally stuck in spring thinking. That is the real strategy. You are not just planting crops, you are planting timing, you are planting transitions, you are planting the next chapter of the season. And that is exactly why August matters so much. Most people think the growing season is a straight line. Plant in spring, maintain in summer, quit in fall. But that is not how a productive garden really works. A productive garden works in waves. One crop replaces another. One season blends into the next. One harvest opens space for the next opportunity. When you understand that, your garden changes. You stop having dead zones. You stop having empty beds. You stop watching the season fall apart just because the first wave got tired. Instead, your garden keeps moving. Now, before I close this out, I want to give you one very important reminder. Do not treat August planting casually. This is not the time for weak planning. If you are planting now, help those crops succeed. Keep the soil evenly moist during germination. Use mulch to stabilize moisture and temperature. Give temporary shade where necessary. Remove plants that are clearly declining and free up that space with purpose. Feed the soil if it has been exhausted. Pay attention to variety speed if your season is shorter. Be realistic, but be proactive. Late season gardening rewards gardeners who act with intention. And if you do that, August can become one of the most profitable months in your entire garden year. That is not an exaggeration, because when everybody else is slowing down, you are setting up the next harvest. When everybody else is complaining that the garden is done, you are filling beds again. When everybody else is reacting to the calendar, you are working ahead of it. That is how you win in the garden. So here is what I want you to do after this video. Walk your garden today. Look for the open spaces. Look for the tired crops. Look for the plants that are clearly on the way out. Look for the places where a fast, smart August planting could completely change what the next 6 to 10 weeks look like. Then choose at least one of these 5 crops and get it going. Not next week, not someday, not when the weather feels more comfortable. Now, because the people who deeply regret not planting in August are almost never the people who lacked options. They are the people who waited too long. And I do not want that to be you. I want you harvesting beans while others have bare spots. I want you picking fresh basil when the old herb pots are worn out. I want you pulling crisp cucumbers from new vines. I want you sowing carrots that turn sweet as the season cools. And I want you cutting beautiful romaine later and realizing that August was not the month your garden declined. It was the month you turned it around. If you found this video helpful, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and drop a comment telling me which one of these 5 crops you are planting first. I always love hearing what gardeners are growing, what climate you are working with, and what you are trying to improve in your season. Thank you so much for watching. This is Jackson, and I truly appreciate you spending this time with me. Take care, keep planting, keep growing, and I will see you in the next video. Happy gardening, everyone.